All right, Clay Travis is the founder of Outkick, Outkick.com, at Clay Travis on Twitter. You see him on Fox as well. He is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What is up, Clay? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
I'm doing great. Didn't you used to operate the Snow Dome there in Nashville?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what situation has been in Birmingham, but we've had 3 big snowfalls in like the last 2 weeks, which is, I mean, the most we've had in certainly a decade or more. I don't think there's any doubt, which is pretty wild. And we're still only, whatever it is, not even a little over halfway through January.
Yeah,
so a lot of times, as you well know, we get hit February or March snowstorm. So we've got some all-time record potential conditions here.
Yeah, I was up there. I had to cut a trip short this weekend because of the forecast, and I'm glad I did. It looked awful behind us, but you know, I was thinking if the Titans had not gotten that wild card, had not gotten the bye, they would have played in that. They would have played a home game in that. It would have been crazy.
Yeah, that would have been truly wild for Titans fans to not only be hosting a home playoff game, but to have a snowfall going on during it. I don't think that's ever really happened. I mean, we've kind of spit, flurries before, but we've never had a legitimate snowfall happen during a game, obviously, because those overlaps wouldn't occur very frequently in the first place. But yeah, I mean, people are super excited up here, nervous, like you can well imagine we would all be given the circumstances. 3.5-point favorite over the Bengals. You win that game, and it's the biggest sporting event, I think, in the city of Nashville's history. You would host a AFC Championship game.
You know, Clay, as much as we like Wild Card Weekend, of those 6 games, only 2 came down to 1 possession. So, watching them, they weren't great games. But when you look forward to the divisional round, these 4 games, I mean, Dunaway said this earlier, we have the best 8 teams left in the NFL.
I think that's right. And that's really what you hope when you get into the playoffs is you're going to have the best matchups available. And I think that's certainly what we've got right now, and the lines would reflect that that's true. I mean, everybody is, 4 or 5 point or below favorite, even the home teams, relatively small favorites. And I think it's going to be a battle royale. I'm excited for both games Saturday. I'll be at the Titans game, and then also watch, obviously, both games Sunday as well.
Bengals Titans kick off the weekend, 3:30 on CBS there in Nashville. And, we were, being in Nashville, we love that city. We love what it has become for SEC basketball. How close do you think you guys are to possibly considering a new stadium? And I know that sounds sort of stupid, considering Wrigley and Fenway have been around forever and ever in stadiums like that. But we've seen what they've done in Arlington with a new baseball stadium. We've seen what Atlanta did when the Georgia Dome was functional. We've seen L.A. build SoFi. What do you think of Nashville one day doing a different looking type stadium that one day maybe could host the Super Bowl?
Well, they just announced the $600 million project to update and basically revitalize the entire, for people who are familiar with Nashville, east bank of the downtown Nashville area. So that is going to happen over the next 3 or 4 years, and I think that'll put Nashville in the running to be able to compete for an even higher level of events, right? I mean, the advantage Nashville has in the wake of, and I'm sure a lot of people watched parts of it in your audience, in the wake of the how well the draft went and how massively packed it was downtown. All the NFL people came in town for that, and the ones who had not spent time in Nashville, we have a very walkable downtown, right? You can, as you guys can probably attest, certainly if you come for the SEC basketball tournament, you can, if you fly in, you can, take a cab or an Uber into your hotel if it's in the downtown area and not ever need to have a car for the rest of the time that you are in on your visit to Nashville. And certainly if you drive in, you can, hand your ticket to the valet or whatever, and you don't have to get your car back out the whole time that you're in Nashville for that either. And that's relatively rare. And there are so many hotels now in that walkable ring of downtown Nashville, and Airbnb and VRBO or whatever they call those companies are also wildly popular here. So lots of people come in with groups and are renting houses in the close proximity of downtown. And so I think there's a very good chance that in the next 10 to 15 years, Nashville will be hosting as big of sporting events as you could possibly host. I really do.
Yeah, Clay Travis is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. I've said that before, like if you can't do this, But if you could just move Nissan Stadium and put a dome there, I think Nashville could host anything. Final Four, Super Bowl with Broadway, leading and the footbridge over the river. I think Nashville could host anything. I think it will be an amazing investment.
Yeah, I think we will.
Yeah.
I think we will. I think that those events will happen at some point in the next 10 or 15 years. I think people are just that much in love with the city of Nashville. There's discussion, and there has been for years, about, as the technology evolves, what kind of roof could you potentially put over the stadium to protect it in the event of inclement weather and things such as that. But I think the city is on such a wild ride of event awesomeness that I think will. I've been saying this for a while, but I'm even more convinced now that at some point in my life, Nashville will host probably not just one. I think at some point in my life, Nashville will have multiple Super Bowls.
Hey, back to the divisional round. Can you make an argument if you could draft one of the 8 quarterbacks for the future from this moment on? Would you go Joe Burrow number 1 based on if you factor in age with the other quarterbacks?
One of you can scroll down because I asked my audience this question during Sunday's games, I think. If you could draft one of these 4 quarterbacks, I think the best 4 young quarterbacks in the league right now are Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I said, hey, those guys are all 26 or younger. If you told me right now, hey, rank the 4 best quarterbacks available in the NFL right now that are of that age, those are the 4 that I would go with. Anybody that you guys would add, this was before, obviously, the poor performance that Kyler Murray had. Some people said Kyler Murray. Some people said Lamar Jackson. There are other quarterbacks in that conversation. But to me, based on what we have seen so far, guys who've played at least 2 years in the league, those are the 4 best. Available options.
Yeah, Joe Burrow won your poll. 35% for Burrow, almost 50,000 votes. 35% for Burrow, 32% for Mahomes, 22 for Josh Allen, 11 for Herbert.
I'd almost go Allen first.
I think I would go Burrow.
I'd be tempted to go Josh Allen, I think. And look, Patrick Mahomes is the more proven of all those quarterbacks that are on that list. But I think all 4 of those guys are going to be, Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber players for the next, and I think I said for a decade. So, you're taking everybody for the next decade. I think if you're a Bengals fan right now, first playoff win since 91, you've got to be ecstatic about what Burrow and Chase could represent to your franchise in the years ahead. But I think those are the 4 best guys right now of a young age in the entirety of the NFL.
Nobody wants to go against the NFL when it comes to television programming. Like the NBA yesterday on a holiday, instead of their usual triple header on TNT, they did a double header so they weren't going against the playoff game last night, which is a smart move when it comes to television ratings. The college football numbers continue to be criticized. Are you worried about college football viewerships, or is that just where we are, that they're a solid number 2 in sports in the landscape? And that's where they're always going to be, and it's still a healthy number. Where are you on TV numbers for college football?
They don't talk enough about the fact that you can only watch the college football playoff on cable. And I say that because early on when ESPN signed up to be able to put the game on, they had over 100 million subscribers for ESPN. I think they're down to like 74 million now. So, when you think about big championship events, one of my favorite stats is sometimes there's 40 million people who will watch the AFC and the NFC championship. And then suddenly 100 million people watch the Super Bowl. And you're like, wait a minute, everybody that I know watches at least some of the AFC and the NFC championship game because the people that I know are sports fans, right? But we more than double the audience. People come out of the woodwork to suddenly watch the Super Bowl that have no interest in watching 2 weeks before on Sunday the games that will decide who plays in Super Bowl. And so when you get into a championship game, you need to bring in as many casual viewers as you possibly can in order for those numbers to increase substantially. What appears to occur to me for college football is there is no casual viewer spillover, right? You guys can look up the numbers, but the number of people who watch the college football semifinal playoff games or the Rose Bowl is not that much different than the number of people who watch the college football national title game. And so I wonder how much of that is a function of cable at this point, where if you're a diehard and you're a big ESPN fan, you're going to watch. But the fact that this thing is not on ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox, where, maybe people who are just flipping around on their television dial on a random night don't end up on it, I think it's becoming more and more significant every year, and almost no one talks about it. The impact of cable versus regular television, the number of people that don't have cable is skyrocketing. And I don't know what the floor is. Maybe it's 50 million, but we're talking about basically half of the people a decade ago who would have had cable deciding to cut the cord, and maybe they're going with just Netflix, or they're going with just Disney Plus, or they're putting together a series of bundles, and they've decided they don't need cable. Well, those are not going to be casual viewers of the national championship game. And the reason why I bring it up is last night was Monday Night Football, right? ESPN had that playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. But they also put it on ABC. So if you were a casual fan and you were just flipping around, you would have seen that on broadcast television. I wonder why there's not more pressure put on ESPN to also simulcast the college football title game on ABC. If they did that, I think it would increase the viewership substantially just based on that decision.
Well, the College Football Playoff Executive Director, Bill Hancock, was on our show in Indianapolis the day after the championship game, and he made it abundantly clear that an expanded playoff, I thought done away, that he basically said it's going to be on multiple networks.
Yeah, I asked him about the NFL model, and he seemed to think that's the way we're headed.
Yeah, I mean, if it is an expanded playoff, Fox is going to get in the game. And I think, Clay, that's what would force ESPN to make that decision, is if Fox is doing it over the air. You know how these networks work. They don't want to lose the ratings game. So if Fox is doing it on over the air, ESPN would too.
I think it's something that the college football playoff should insist on as a part of their next negotiation. Now, the reason for people out there who are like, well, why does that happen? It's an interesting point. Is because ESPN is forcing the way that ESPN's business model works is everybody pays, and the way they force the cable companies and the satellite companies to pay them as much money as possible is they say, look, we've got exclusivity on the college football playoff. That's worth a ton of money. Therefore, you need to guarantee us $9 a month or whatever the cost of ESPN is. And they're worried about undercutting their business model by putting the game on ABC as well. But the NFL just says, screw it. We insist on you putting our game simulcast on ABC as well. To me, the college football playoff should do the same.
Yeah, that's why ABC doesn't have part of the Super Bowl rotation, is because they're not going to put it on.
I think they do going.
They will.
I think they do going forward now,
that's right?
As part of the new extension. It used to be every 3 years. It was Fox, CBS, NBC. Now it'll be every 4 years, and ABC will have it. But, yeah, they're not ever going to allow
that's right.
The Super Bowl to exist on cable because the NFL wants the biggest possible audience. And a lot of people, have the traditional broadcast networks that may not have access to cable.
All right, at Clay Travis on Twitter. Read him at Outkick. See him on Fox. Clay, thank you for the time. Have a great week.
Hey, appreciate you all. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy. Take care. Clay Travis with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.